Hello, everyone. I'm Mark. Lai Ching-te has taken office as Taiwan's leader. Initially, I thought this change wouldn't cause much of a stir, since the reactions were clear during the elections. Now that the Democratic Progressive Party has won, there's no need for grand statements. Keeping the inaugural speech vague would be better, focusing on economic growth for the first 3.5 years, then stirring things up against the Chinese Communist Party in the last 6 months to boost votes. This cycle would help the DPP remain in power and be profitable. But to my surprise, Lai Ching-te was quite bold. I watched his entire inauguration speech. While he didn't explicitly say Taiwan independence, every sentence implied it, asserting that Taiwan is already independent. Lai touched on several sensitive issues for China. Unlike Tsai Ing-wen, who used ambiguous terms like the other side, mainland, or Beijing to refer to China, Lai directly referred to it as China, implying it is a foreign country. He also mentioned that the Republic of China and the People's Republic of China are not subordinate to each other. Tsai Ing-wen has made similar statements, but Lai's wording was stronger, emphasizing two separate nations. Additionally, Lai highlighted Taiwan's role in the International Democratic Alliance, calling for support from Western democracies, which the Chinese Communist Party dislikes. They prefer cross-strait issues to be resolved internally without Western interference. There were other minor points, but these aren't our main focus today. After Lai's speech, I anticipated that the surrounding region would face repercussions. As expected, China's subsequent information revealed that their military exercises covered the largest area ever, including most of the Taiwan Strait, the Pacific east of Taiwan, and even the Bashi Channel between Taiwan and the Philippines. However, despite the large-scale exercises, it's still just a military drill. Every day we hear that Taiwan will eventually reunite with the mainland China. At most, when China feels slighted, they might target Taiwanese celebrities making money in China, pressuring them to make statements on social media. It's as if these celebrity posts would somehow lead to Taiwan's reunification. This shifts public attention from the actual issue to which celebrity hasn't spoken up, or whose statement was ambiguous. Of course, think tanks are undoubtedly conducting various simulations on persuading Taiwan, but the experts on camera either talk nonsense or avoid details due to the sensitivity of the Taiwan issue. Since their ideas are often impractical, let's take a moment to imagine a more comprehensive scenario ourselves. Let's discuss the potential losses China might face if it attempts to reclaim Taiwan. We won't talk about the benefits of reclaiming Taiwan, only the losses. If everyone thinks these losses are bearable, then reclaiming Taiwan will be quick. First, does China have the military capability to reclaim Taiwan? Many people say that reclaiming Taiwan is no problem at all, because China's military strength is much greater than Taiwan's. In 2022, China's military budget was $230 billion, while Taiwan's was only $16.8 billion. China has 2 million regular troops, while Taiwan has only 170,000 to 180,000. In terms of naval vessels, China has 777 various warships, while Taiwan has only 177. China also has numerous nuclear bombs and countless missiles. Some say that the land, sea, and air forces don't even need to be deployed. Just using the 2nd Artillery Corps' missiles could flatten Taiwan. After flattening it, troops could then land on the island, right? Here we need to address a few issues. First, using missiles to flatten Taiwan is not going to happen. The Communist Party has always claimed that Taiwanese people are Chinese. Attacking military targets is one thing, but simply using missiles to level Taiwan is inhumane. This would also be detrimental to China's future governance of Taiwan. It's similar to how Israel's handling of the situation in Rafah is very poor, creating a dilemma. Israel wants to attack terrorists hiding among civilians, but this affects Palestinian civilians. Even so, Israel faced immense international criticism. Even Americans were fed up with it. If China attacks Taiwan in the future and kills a large number of civilians, imagine the global backlash. Taiwan is a developed economy. Does China just want to reclaim the land? Of course not. They also want Taiwan's industrial system and high-end manufacturing talent. If Taiwan is turned into ruins, its industry paralyzed, and the people's morale shattered, it would be a Pyrrhic victory. Therefore, for China to reclaim Taiwan, it would start with bombing key military facilities and then rely on a ground invasion. It can't just focus on overall troop strength. For example, the PLA's failure at Kinmen wasn't due to inadequate combat ability, but because they couldn't land enough troops. This issue hasn't been resolved, or perhaps it has been. In 2021, China showcased its Type 075 amphibious assault ships during military exercises. These ships can carry up to 4 battalions of troops and equipment at once. Military analysts viewed the Type 075 as a powerful tool for reclaiming Taiwan. Currently, China has 4 Type 075 ships in service. Each PLA battalion has about 500 soldiers, so in a successful landing, the Type 075 ships could transport up to 8,000 troops in one go. Besides the Type 075, China has 8 Type 071 ships, each capable of carrying 2 battalions, which adds another 8,000 troops. Additionally, China's Y-20 transport aircraft, in service since 2016, can transport 2 fully equipped infantry companies, each about 250 soldiers. With 80 Y-20 aircraft, that's another 20,000 troops, assuming the initial ground forces secure a few airstrips. China's current transport capabilities are vastly improved compared to the Kinmen battle, but they still can't quickly gain a decisive advantage over Taiwan's nearly 200,000 regular troops and 3.5 million reservists. Some might argue that with air and naval superiority over the Taiwan Strait, China can dictate the terms. However, I urge caution against believing in absolute air and naval superiority. The U.S., despite its might, spent years in prolonged conflicts in Iraq, Vietnam, and Afghanistan. The gap between China and Taiwan is much smaller than that between the U.S. and those countries. Moreover, Taiwan's combat capabilities have been increasing. Since the U.S. established diplomatic relations with China, it has followed a policy of strategic ambiguity on Taiwan, never openly supporting Taiwan's independence, but also not supporting China's claim over Taiwan. In recent years, the U.S. has sold advanced equipment to Taiwan, and by 2026, Taiwan will have 207 F-16Vs, the largest fleet outside the U.S. Additionally, the U.S. has sold Taiwan a range of missiles, radar systems, and Patriot anti-missile systems. Chinese media might criticize the U.S., but they don't emphasize how these weapons increase the difficulty of reclaiming Taiwan. In fact, Taiwan's military strength has been growing faster than China's in recent years, making a forceful reunification even harder. 2024 April, the U.S. passed a military aid bill for Taiwan, providing up to $8 billion in free equipment, equivalent to over 40% of Taiwan's total military budget. If this aid continues, the potential losses China faces in reclaiming Taiwan will only increase. Besides Taiwan's military capability, there's the political aspect. Unlike Trump, who mainly sought profit, Biden has repeatedly stated his willingness to defend Taiwan. How this defense is defined remains unclear. The best scenario might be U.S. support similar to its aid to Ukraine, providing money and equipment without direct involvement. However, the worst-case scenario is the U.S. using this opportunity to suppress China, potentially joining the conflict. The U.S. has 41 bases in South Korea and 140 in Japan, which can quickly support Taiwan. The U.S. 7th Fleet, based in Yokosuka, includes about 60 ships, 350 aircraft, and up to 60,000 personnel. The U.S. also has over 10,000 Air Force personnel in Japan and South Korea. We haven't even accounted for Japan's self-defense forces, which have been increasingly active under Abe's administration. Japan can now engage in peacekeeping operations abroad, and if the U.S. is attacked, Japan could exercise its right to self-defense. Australia is also notably anti-China. In the worst-case scenario, if the U.S. and Japan join the war, China might still conquer Taiwan, but the losses would be immense. Thus, if China plans to use force, it must win swiftly, so fast that the U.S. can't intervene. They need to eliminate Taiwan's military and political leaders before they retreat to the eastern mountains. Otherwise, China risks being dragged into a prolonged war. This is likely why China conducts frequent military drills around Taiwan, to familiarize themselves with the terrain and tactics, and to lull Taiwan into a false sense of security for a decisive future strike. But this is challenging due to advanced radar and satellite technology, making it hard for the PLA to move large forces undetected. Even with secrecy, human leaks are possible, as seen when the U.S. predicted Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Russia expected a quick victory, but is still embroiled in conflict after 2 years. Putin has skilled advisors, and so does Biden. Underestimating U.S. leadership is dangerous. My first point is that reclaiming Taiwan by force isn't as simple as many media suggest. Without absolute military superiority, China could face a tough battle. Many empires have fallen due to complacency and underestimating their enemies. As Sun Tzu said, military action is of vital importance to the nation. It is the ground of life and death, the path of survival and destruction, so it is imperative to examine it. My second point is that Taiwan isn't as crucial to China as it might seem. The desire to reclaim Taiwan is significant for China and the U.S., but once achieved, Taiwan might lose its strategic value, which would be a considerable loss for China. China has emphasized Taiwan as a core interest so often that it's become accepted as a given. Is Taiwan really that important? Will China's national power significantly increase after reclaiming Taiwan? Taiwan's GDP in 2023 is only $0.8 trillion, while China's GDP in 2023 is 19 to 16 trillion. Taiwan only accounts for 4% of China's GDP. Militarily, Taiwan has adopted a defensive strategy, avoiding confrontations with Chinese ships and planes, and has essentially lost its role in the first island chain. As long as China doesn't attempt to reclaim Taiwan, Taiwan is unlikely to challenge China on behalf of the U.S. In the short term, the greatest benefit of successfully reclaiming Taiwan might be psychological satisfaction for the Chinese people, with little material change. In terms of national security, when China is strong, it doesn't need Taiwan to prevent others from bullying it. When China is weak, having Taiwan won't change that. During the Qing dynasty, China not only had Taiwan, but also Outer Mongolia and the Northeast, yet it was still weak. Why does the Communist Party emphasize reclaiming Taiwan? I think Taiwan serves two important purposes. Domestically, it quenches the thirst for unification. People often say, China will reclaim Taiwan next year, or more conservatively, Xi Jinping will reclaim Taiwan before he steps down. The narrative is that once Taiwan is reclaimed, the great rejuvenation of the Chinese nation will be complete. Over the years, the Communist Party has deliberately equated reclaiming Taiwan with national rejuvenation. This isn't entirely wrong because if China can easily reclaim Taiwan, it indeed signifies a strong Chinese nation. However, the Communist Party has mythologized the Taiwan issue, similar to its promise of achieving common prosperity. Reclaiming Taiwan seems much easier than achieving common prosperity, right? It's as if reclaiming Taiwan will solve many problems or allow them to be ignored. Is this really the case? Once Taiwan is reclaimed, will it be easier for Chinese people to find jobs? Will wages increase? Will the gap between social classes shrink? Will people have more children or buy more houses? I don't think so. After the initial excitement of solving the Taiwan issue, people will likely turn their attention to more practical concerns. This is similar to a boss promising you a promotion. As long as the promise exists, you stay motivated and endure hardships and injustices. But once the promotion happens, you might start considering work-life balance and quality of life. From an employee's perspective, a boss who keeps promises and rewards on time is a good boss. But from a capitalist's perspective, this is a failure. A good capitalist keeps employees striving but never fully satisfied. Reclaiming Taiwan can have a narcotic and motivational effect domestically. Internationally, the impact is also significant. China emphasizes Taiwan's importance, demanding the U.S. promise not to interfere with Taiwan whenever cooperation is discussed. Over time, the U.S. might actually believe it. When the U.S. wants to challenge China, it can stir up the Taiwan issue, visiting Taiwan, selling weapons, or supporting Taiwan independence. Watching Chinese spokespersons react angrily gives the U.S. a sense of victory, and American citizens applaud their brave politicians. Isn't that wonderful? The United States has once again outmaneuvered China on the Taiwan issue. If China is genuinely concerned about America's statements regarding Taiwan or its sale of military equipment to Taiwan, then the U.S. has indeed won. However, what if the Chinese Communist Party has no intention of reclaiming Taiwan in the next few decades? Could it be that the Taiwan issue is a fake battleground deliberately created by China to distract the United States? There's a famous saying in Sun Tzu's The Art of War. All warfare is based on deception. Therefore, when capable, feign incapacity. When active, inactivity. When near, make it appear that you are far away. When far away, that you are near. The West has similar wisdom, as Don Corleone advises his son in The Godfather. Never let your enemy know what you are thinking. I believe China is making too much noise about the Taiwan issue, which seems unnecessary. I suspect Taiwan is a tool for China to divert the attention of Western countries away from more critical issues, focusing their main energy on the relatively insignificant Taiwan issue for now. If China were to reclaim Taiwan, the fabricated issue would disappear, and the U.S. might shift its focus to other issues that could be more damaging to China. Even if Taiwan is indeed a core interest for China, the West's tactics on the Taiwan issue are quite predictable and not very harmful. Why not keep playing this familiar game instead of opening up a new and unknown battleground? Of course, this might seem unconventional, and I mean no disrespect to Taiwan. Maybe Taiwan is indeed very important and I just haven't realized it. Let's discuss what most people agree on. If China truly cannot do without Taiwan and successfully reclaims it, what would happen next? We can look at Russia as an example with its international sanctions. So far, the U.S. and its allies have imposed over 16,000 sanctions on Russia, and it might reach 20,000 this year. While many of these sanctions are ineffective, Some are strong, like the confiscation of Russia's $350 billion foreign reserves held abroad. China currently holds nearly $800 billion in U.S. debt and about 600 tons of gold in the U.S., equivalent to around $40 billion at current gold prices. China also holds European and Japanese debt, though the exact amount isn't disclosed by the central bank. If China moves against Taiwan, it must be prepared for over $1 trillion in foreign assets to be seized. Some might say that losing a few $1 trillion is worth it for Taiwan, but the sanctions on Russia go beyond that. They removed Russian banks from the SWIFT international payment system, making international transactions very difficult. It's similar to losing access to mobile or credit card payments and having to use cash or ask friends to help pay. Recently, Chinese state banks stopped processing payments for Russian businesses, essentially due to U.S. intervention. This shows how crucial the SWIFT system is for China's large foreign trade. If China reclaims Taiwan, there's a 99.999% chance that the West will cut China off from SWIFT, raising the cost of doing business with China. Another effective sanction on Russia was banning flights to and from Russia, crippling the tourism industry and making business travel difficult, affecting investments and international business. Moreover, the West also banned its companies from buying Russian goods and required them to stop doing business in Russia. Many foreign companies in China, especially in manufacturing, would face a similar choice. Unless they make most of their profits in China, they would likely leave, resulting in a loss of orders and increased unemployment in China. Unlike Russia, China, as the world's factory, is more dependent on the West. Another point is the sanctioning of Russian officials, their families, and oligarchs. Many wealthy Chinese live in places like New York and Los Angeles, often enjoying a luxurious lifestyle. If U.S.-China relations sour over Taiwan, these people's wealth could be confiscated, causing significant backlash. Let's also consider the impact on Taiwan itself. Taiwan has been a democracy for many years, and its people are used to a different system than China. It would be difficult for Taiwanese to follow the directives of Chinese officials, leading to potential governance issues. Initially, China might offer Taiwan more freedom and autonomy, but if that fails, high-pressure governance would follow, which is costly and might lead to further resistance and higher taxes from other Chinese provinces. The initial euphoria of reclaiming Taiwan might give way to domestic dissatisfaction as special privileges for Taiwanese become apparent, much like the resentment towards special treatment for minorities within China. In summary, forcibly reclaiming Taiwan is fraught with significant risks. After reclaiming Taiwan, China would face numerous challenges. From my perspective, the costs far outweigh the benefits. However, I can't say for certain that China won't use force to reclaim Taiwan. Economic decline or personal ambitions of leaders could lead to war, despite the potential losses. Nevertheless, I believe the Communist Party is rational and would heed ancient wisdom, such as Sun Tzu's advice that a wise ruler should not act out of anger or haste, and only move when it is advantageous.